I see a lot of people excited about this new 240 hertz OLED gaming monitor, and I'm going to explain you what's the difference between this and the LG C1 and why, in my opinion, this makes little to no sense. And it is amazing, and I am excited about OLED gaming monitors, but not this one, okay? And I'm especially excited about 240 hertz, but not this one. And I'm going to explain you why, based on the Blur Busters law. The LG C1 is already better, okay? It's already better. This is going to be better in some specific scenarios that don't make sense, in my opinion. So I'm gonna talk about the specs. I'm gonna explain you the Blur Busters law. I'm gonna tell you exactly the motion clarity that you're going to get with this 240 hertz, because I see people hyping up this monitor and telling you, oh, look at that response time, it's amazing. And it is. Look at 240 hertz, that's going to give you the clearest UFO test ever. And it is not. So let me show you first real world example, if this makes any sense practically, okay? I have a 5800X3D CPU and a 3080 12 gigabytes, okay? With my system, that monitor makes absolutely no difference. It makes absolutely no sense because I'm not gonna try to play the games with DLSS Ultra Performance at 1440p, and I'm not even getting 240 hertz. I'm getting like 190, 180 frames per second. So for me, that makes absolutely no sense. So how can you push 240 hertz on Warzone 2, for example? A 4090, basically, and a monster CPU. So are you willing to pay thousands of dollars to play at 1440p, 240 hertz on that monitor? If the answer is yes, then that makes sense for you. That's it. Everything comes down to, are you going to get a 4090, a monster CPU, that monitor, to try to push close to 240 hertz on this game? And it's gonna drop. It's not gonna be 240 hertz rock solid because of the CPU. I am already getting CPU bound here with a 5800X3D, which is a very powerful CPU for gaming right now. So if that's you, that makes sense, okay? But here's why I don't think that makes any sense. If you want to get the best picture quality and you want to get, the best experience, the best gaming experience, you don't play at 1440p, okay? In my opinion. So if you are an esport competitive gamer and all you care is about winning and you're willing to spend all the money in the world to get the fastest input lag, bro, input lag is all I care about, then yeah, that makes sense. It's gonna give you the best input lag ever. And it's going to give you great motion clarity. Not better than the C1. I'm going to explain you why. It's gonna give you great motion clarity, amazing response, and yeah, you're paying for it. Thousands of dollars, okay? But let me explain you why this is not better than the C1 and based on the Blur Busters law. So let me start by talking about the specs, okay? We come here on the website, we read the specs, and we don't see any mention about black frame insertion. Not at all. And what that tells me is that this monitor is not going to support black frame insertion. And that's a huge miss, in my opinion. I understand people don't have a clue about what black frame insertion is. People don't know because all the marketing is about input lag, input lag. So people are brainwashed with input lag. That's the only thing you have to look at. And 240 hertz, that's the only thing that matters, because they don't understand the Blur Busters law. This is very difficult to understand for most people. So I'm gonna try to explain you what that is and why this monitor needs black frame insertion to be really a big deal, in my opinion. So I mean, it's gonna be a big deal because it's gonna be OLED monitor. So that's not the beginning. There are other OLED monitors, but they are extremely expensive for color grading and all of that. So $1,000 is still expensive, but I do see this monitor as a big deal because it's first in class, let's say. So when we look at the specs here of the monitor, there's nothing about black frame insertion. Everything we see is G-Sync, FreeSync, and this dynamic action sync, which is a very interesting technology to improve input lag. You can read this article. You can just type in on Google what is this, and you will get this article from the chief of Blurrbusters explaining you exactly what is this dynamic action sync, and it's all about input lag. Very interesting. It's basically this monitor has a grade to grade. It has a responsiveness that is greater than the refresh rate. So when that happens, they use this technology from LG, invented this technology to improve the input lag further. Okay, but nothing about black from insertion. So what is this black from insertion that's such a big deal? And it's basically giving you a better motion clarity on the C1 than this monitor. Okay, so I see people hyping up this monitor, opening the UFO test and telling you that, oh, that monitor is gonna give you the best UFO test ever. If it doesn't have black from insertion, no, it won't. Okay, it will not be better in motion clarity. So let me explain you why. The Blurrbusters law states that the motion clarity is equal to the pixel visibility time. So the pixel visibility time on a sample and hold display like this monitor or the LG C1 is equal to the refresh rate. So how long each frame stays on the screen, or how long can you see the pixels really? So if we calculate, let's have a calculator here, and let's calculate how long the frame is going to stay on the screen if you have 240 hertz. Okay, so if you have 240 hertz, you have in 1 second you have 240 frames per second. So we divide 240, we get this result in second, and we multiply that by 1000 to get that in milliseconds. So that monitor is going to give you about 4.2 milliseconds of pixel visibility time. So now on the LG C1 you have 140, you have 120, so basically it's double than that. So that's worse, right? So on the LG C1 you get 8.3, that's a lot worse than 4. But with the LG C1 you have black from insertion, and black from insertion reduces that pixel visibility time. And for example, if you use Motion Pro Medium, that cuts that pixel visibility time in half. And what it does is basically, instead of refreshing the image one at a time and staying on the screen, so instead of being sample and hold, what it does is it's refreshing the image left to right, top to bottom, and once it has half of the screen, it's going to scroll that image down. So in doing that, it is reducing the pixel visibility time in half. So with 120 Motion Pro Medium, you already have that motion clarity. Okay, so you have that 8.3 divided by 2 already with medium. Okay, so the LG C1 with that Motion Pro in medium is the same motion clarity as this one. So what is the difference? The difference is that this monitor can give you that motion clarity on HDR. So that's awesome. So there's no brightness loss. So you might say, well, but I want the best picture quality. I want 240 frames per second with HDR, no brightness loss, and with better input lag. And if that's your goal, go for it, okay? But here's the problem. You need a 4090 for that, okay? Because I have Warzone 2 right now. I have the game open right now, and I am trying to run the game at 240 frames per second with a 5800X3D CPU and a 3080 12 gigabytes. It is not possible, okay? The quality is horrendous. I am using DLSS Ultra Performance. This looks horrendously bad, okay? So in my opinion, you're not going to spend so much money to get this picture quality. So now let's say you get a 4090. Yes, you will get 240. It's going to drop because of the CPU, because I am already getting CPU bound at about 200, but it's gonna be possible. So if you have a 4090, you want to spend all that money to play at 1440p, okay? Because you are a competitive gamer and you want the fastest input lag, bro. Yes, that's for you. But in my opinion, you are not looking for the best picture quality because that monitor is 1440p. See, if you want the best picture quality, you want 4K or more. You don't want a lower resolution. A lower resolution, of course, helps to give you that performance, but the problem is 240 sometimes, or most of the time, is a matter of the CPU more than the GPU. Because the GPU, you can always lower the resolution, but the CPU sometimes is not fast enough. Although these competitive games are not very demanding, and a lot of them can run at 240, no problem. So that's the only case, a scenario where I see this monitor being superior to the C1. But for example, I've been playing Warzone at 100 frames per second. And at 100 frames per second with Motion Pro High, I get 263 hertz of motion clarity, basically. So let me explain you why. We just do the math simple here. So at 100 frames per second, we have in 1 second, we have 100, so we divide that, then we multiply that by 1000 and we get 10, okay? So 10 milliseconds. So at 100 hertz, 100 frames per second, I have 10 milliseconds of persistence. So when I use Motion Pro High on this LG C1, that improves that pixel visibility time. That reduces the pixel visibility time to 38%. So if I calculate 38% of 10, so we just do that simple math here, we get 3.8. So with Motion Pro High at 100 frames per second, 100 hertz, the pixel visibility time is reduced to 3.8. That's better than the 4.166 that you get with this monitor. And that 3.8 means we divide 1 by 3.8. That means 206, and we multiply that by 1000. That means, this is a stock. So it's 263 frames per second, basically. So let me do it again. 1 by 3.8. We multiply that by 1000. I don't know why this is not working. Okay, well, it's 263 frames per second. I don't know why the calculator is not working. So because I have the controller on top of the keyboard. Okay, so here it is. 263 frames per second, okay? So at 100 hertz on this LG C1 with Motion Pro High, you have better motion clarity than this. So I've been playing Warzone right now using 100 frames, 100 hertz with Motion Pro High. I have all the graphics on the game on high, DLSS balanced, so the picture quality is fantastic. It's very good. And I am already getting a better motion clarity. So what about 120? If I can get 120 frames, 120 hertz on any game, and I use Motion Pro High, I actually get 312 hertz motion clarity, okay? So it's like having this monitor being 312, okay? But my CPU doesn't have to push those frames. So I get the motion clarity without having to get that frame rate. Of course, the input lag, if you can get the frames, is gonna be better, okay? But you cannot get that level of performance almost in any game. Just a few handful of esports games where that is gonna be even possible. So this monitor without black frame insertion makes no sense in my opinion. But I'm still happy that it is coming because this is the beginning. And I am sure that the black frame insertion is going to come. Okay, I'm sure it will. Some monitor is going to implement black frame insertion, I believe. Because there is a laptop right now from MSI that has black frame insertion at 240. So it is possible. It is absolutely possible. But for example, what is the problem with that laptop screen, for example? That laptop is not powerful enough to play games at 240 hertz. It's impossible. So that laptop screen, for example, has only 60 hertz option and 240. That's a big mistake. The monitor needs to support different refresh rates with the black frame insertion. So if you cannot get 240, you can get 120, 200, 100, You know, because you cannot get that level of performance on every single game. For example, on Warzone, I guarantee you there's no PC in the world that is going to give you rock solid 240 hertz, no drops. And it's not because of the GPU. You can always lower the resolution. The problem is the CPU. The CPU is going to drop below 240. And for black film insertion to work, you need rock solid performance, no drops. So that's why that laptop screen makes no sense. It needs to support custom refresh rates, ideally, or at least to support more refresh rates. So that's my summary of this monitor. It is amazing that it is coming. It is the beginning of OLED gaming monitors in this class category. We have OLED monitors before, but they're extremely expensive because they use that for color grading. So they charge this color grading customers a lot of money for these monitors. But for gaming, this is the first one, and hopefully we get this at 4K with black film insertion options. That's what I'm looking for. It has to be at least 32-inch, 4K, and black film insertion at different refresh rates, or even better, at custom refresh rates. So I can basically create any custom refresh rates, let's say 150 hertz, and it works. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I would be interested in. That's what it would really make a huge difference. Amazing. So you can imagine, for example, if this monitor supports the same level of black film insertion as the LG C1, for example. Let's do a math here and see how amazing this would be. 240 hertz. So we divide 1 by 240. We multiply that by 1000. So we get 4.16. So imagine 38% of that. So we multiply by 38, divide by 100. That's 1.583, okay? So if this monitor supported the same level of black film insertion as the C1, this is almost perfect. Almost perfect. 1.58 milliseconds of persistence. That's just insanely good. So close to perfection already. But no mention of black film insertion on the specs. I hope I am wrong and they do support it. But if they support the best feature ever and give you the best motion clarity ever, and they didn't mention that on the features, I don't understand. It's like assuming that people are just dumb. They cannot understand the feature, because these are not easy features to understand. For example, this dynamic action sync, you need to read this response from the chief of Blur Busters to understand that, and it's not easy to understand. So I don't know why they would have black film insertion and not have that mentioned here on the page, but I hope they do. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And again, don't so the hype is real, because this is first in class, and I'm glad the OLED monitors are coming. But this is not better than the C1. It is only better in a specific scenario that doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Because if you're spending all that money to play at 1440p, that makes no sense, in my opinion. But maybe it does make sense to you, because all you care is about the input lag, and you think that you're going to win the games better because 0.03 is better than 1. Okay, so this LG C1 has 1 millisecond of responsiveness. If you think this is better and it's gonna make you win the games, go for it. It is better. Can you feel that difference? I don't believe so. I do not believe that you will notice the difference unless you have them side by side and you really pay attention. I don't think that you will get a benefit on the input lag in comparison with the LG C1, which is already stellar. The input lag with the LG C1 is already amazing. So this is not the biggest selling point, in my opinion. But yeah, go for it. And also, you know, DLSS 3.0 frame generation makes a lot of sense to play other games and get 240, like Cyberpunk, for example. But again, if you want the best picture quality on HDR, you want 4K or more, not 1440p. So this monitor being 1440p makes no sense, in my opinion. So let me know if you have any questions.